Hi, my name is Bob and welcome to the Homestead, y'all. Well, we're out here with our monster tomato grow. We've kind of neglected these plants for the last 3 weeks or so. Christy and I have both had family emergencies on both sides of our family. Had family members in the hospital, but we've neglected our garden and these monster tomato plants. We haven't had any rain in the last 3 weeks. Almost 4 weeks now. I haven't watered them at all. So what growth they've done just from the moisture that was in the soil. And we've been in the 90s just about every day. There's a couple days we were in the high 80s, but most of the time we've been in the 90s. So really these plants have done well since I haven't watered them. When plants get this big, they need a lot of water. These tomato plants, they put off tons of tomatoes, so they need a lot of moisture to produce the tomatoes and to keep growing the way they do. And we just haven't had time to fool with them. We come in, take care of the animals, what we need to get done, and that's all we've done for the last 3 weeks to a month. I'm going to come in here. We do have a little bit of bacteria spot. I'll take a picture or two and show you and insert it right here. And so I'm going to take a lot of these leaves off. I have some plastic bags and some alcohol to spray my hands with. We're going to do a measurement today, and then I'm going to show you on the Cert Rolos tomato plants. On this front one, I have a problem with it, and I think it's Fusarium wilt. And if that's what it is, then we're in big trouble because there's no cure for it. It's a fungus that lives in the soil. I have done some research on it, and there's been a few people that I've reached out to that have had success building large fires on top of the ground and burning it out, raising the soil temperature and being able to kill the fungus. So I've reached out to them and I'm going to see how they did it. But I took a culture off this front plant and looked at it under a microscope, and I believe that's exactly what it is. I have a sample that I'm going to send off and have it tested for sure. That way I know for sure what it is. If that's what it is, then I'm definitely going to pull this plant up today and put it in a plastic bag and throw it away because I don't want it spreading anywhere else on the homestead. The Fusarium wilt is a fungus that can live in the soil for years and years. Some places I've read up to 10 years and some places say forever. So if that's what it is, then we'll only be able to grow varieties of tomatoes that are resistant to Fusarium wilt. It hasn't bothered these Sweet 100s yet, and I've not done enough research to see if they're resistant to it, and they may be resistant to it. I don't know. By the time I do the next update, I'll let you know for sure. We're 8 weeks into our tomato grow now, and I'm guessing our plants are going to be close to 8 feet tall. So let me go ahead and measure these real quick. We'll get that out of the way. I'll show you a picture or two of the bacteria spot, which is very common with tomatoes. The problem with bacteria spot is once you get it, it's hard to get rid of it. Now what I do when I do get it on our tomato plants, I go through and cut all the leaves off and dispose them in a plastic bag, get rid of them, throw them away. But the problem is the bacteria spot, the spores from it can travel right up the plant and you would never even know it. So if you have it, more than likely these leaves up top here, even though they're not showing any signs or symptoms of bacteria spot, more than likely the spores are already on these leaves and there's not a whole lot I could do about it without stripping just about every leaf off the plant. Which I can't do that because the tomato plant needs those leaves for transpiration for the summertime to cool the plant off. So it has to be able to wick that moisture up from the soil and out through the leaves, and that's what keeps it cool in the summertime. So today what I'm going to do is go through here and cut any leaves I see that have bacteria spot on them. I'm going to cut them off, put them in a plastic bag, throw them in the trash, and then we'll go over here and we'll look at these other ones and I'll show you what I'm going to do with them. Alright, let's go ahead and get our measurements out of the way real quick. See how tall these things are. Alright, that one's an 8 feet 3 inches. This one over here, 8 feet 2 inches. Both Sweet 100s are over 8 feet. The cert roll-offs, like I said, I'm going to show you them in a minute. They're not really growing much. This one's at right at 5 feet over here, and that back one's only about 4 feet tall, and that's the one we're probably going to go ahead and pull up today. But we're at 8 feet, so they're still growing about a foot a week, and that's what we usually average, 11 inches to 12 inches a week. So they're still growing good, especially considering they haven't had any water. Cut a whole bag full of leaves off here. These will go in the trash. That's everything that I see that has bacteria spot on it. You might be thinking, well, how'd you get bacteria spot? You keep all the leaves cut off from the bottom of a tomato plant. But I had several limbs over the last few weeks that have fell over onto the ground. I don't know if they transferred it up or if where we have these hot, humid nights in the summertime, we have heavy dews. In the morning, there's real heavy dew, and that the water sits there and bacteria gets on it and can create a water spot. So it's probably a combination of both. Here in Tennessee, about everybody I know that grows tomatoes gets bacteria spot. If you're not an organic gardener, there are some sprays that you can use. You can spray on it, and it'll help you out a lot. If you are an organic gardener like we are, the best thing to do is just cut all the leaves off that you see that have any spots on them. You're not gonna cure it, Goosifer. You're not gonna cure it, but what you're gonna do is you're gonna delay it. You're gonna slow it down. You're still going to get tomatoes. You can see this Sweet 100 still has a ton of tomatoes. There's tomatoes all the way up it, and it's full of blooms. So you're still going to get fruit production. It's just not going to be as much. And hopefully you can delay it right on till first frost. I don't know. We're going to try it with these and see. This year may just be a bust. Some years are that way, especially when we have these droughts the way we're having. The weather is changing in our area. The extreme droughts, we went since the 1st of June, we only had 2 inches of rain. Luckily tonight and tomorrow we got a 90% chance of rain, so hopefully we'll get a bunch of rain for the next 2 days, and that'll help out a lot with the main garden, and it'll help out a lot with these plants. So I'm going to spray everything down with alcohol, even my arms where I've been reaching into these. Now, since I've neglected these plants, I haven't been able to go out and thin the centers of them. Normally I come out, if you've watched last year's video or the years before, you can see I go into the center of the plant and I trim a bunch of leaves, and that's for air movement, so that way you don't get things like bacteria spot. But since I haven't been able to do that, these things are so thick, especially before I started cutting the leaves, you definitely couldn't see through them. So today, since I cut all these leaves off, once I get done completely, I'll come through here and I'll thin these out a little bit more, and maybe they'll get a little more airflow, and that'll help slow down the bacteria spot. But for now, I've got to go back here to this other Sweet 100 and go ahead and cut all the bacteria spot off of it. I'm going to tie this bag up, get me another bag, spray everything down with alcohol, and start all over. Okay, this is the plant I was talking about that I think has fusarium wilt. I can follow, there's several signs and symptoms of it. I can follow this branch up here, and it's dying, just that whole branch is. And that's what the fungus does. It gets in and it clogs up the inside of your tomato plant to where it can't pull moisture up, it can't pull nutrients up to it, and it'll die one strand at a time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pull, there's a few little tomatoes on here, I'm going to pull them off. These that are worth saving, which actually there's only 2. And then we're going to pull this plant up, we're going to put it in this plastic bag, roll it up, throw it in the garbage, and get it off the homestead. If this is what it is, if it is fusarium wilt, then I sure do not want to spread it to any other part of the homestead, to anything else, any of our soil, because it is a soil fungus. So I want to get this thing out of here. I want to make as little contact with it as I can. Once I get it in the bag, get the bag rolled up, I have my alcohol spray. I'm going to spray my arms down, spray my hands down. I was going to use gloves, but I decided my hands were easier to clean and to kill any of the fungus that may get on it off of my hands a lot easier than I can a glove. I thought, well, the glove's porous. If some of the fungi gets into those pores and I don't get it killed out, and then I use those same gloves somewhere else in the homestead, then I'm just introducing that fungus to another part of the homestead. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my scissors and cut this into... Alright, well apparently my camera shut off for some reason. But I already have the plant taken out. You can see the empty spot here. It's all in this bag. I cut it into manageable pieces, put it in here, and then pulled the plant up by the roots. So now the next step will be sending off the sample and getting it tested, see exactly what it is that's in the soil here or what's wrong with this plant, and then I'll go from there. And like I said, if it is wilt, then I'm gonna pull all this out this winter anyhow before I plant cover crops, and I'll build me a big fire on top of all this soil, and I'm gonna burn it off and try that. And like I said, if I get any replies back from people that have cured it by using fire, then I'll make a video on that also. So that way, if you get some kind of wilt in your soil, you'll know how to take care of it. But if you have any questions or comments on this video, please leave them below. And if you know anything I can do for tomato wilt, please leave it in the comments below. Same with the bacteria spot. If you know a better way of getting rid of bacteria spot without using chemicals, please leave that in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching.